I thought she'd pick it later.
Well,
Hi,
it is.
this is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
Very exciting. So, this is a subject that not everybody knows about. What I found when I was asking around, people had sort of kind of heard about it,
Right.
but they didn't really know what it meant. So I thought, well, this will be really fun because we'll get a chance to really inform them and give them
Mhm.
some tools. So the title today is How Attached Are You and How to Change It if it's not working for you.
Exactly.
So it's interesting because it really didn't even get put out into the psychological world as part of the jargon until like the 80s, right? I mean, it was, or the
I think
60s.
probably
It's really
well,
it's been a
attachment
long
style.
time.
Well, I know the book Attached is less than 20 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but the topic has been definitely in the vernacular in the sense it's probably been in psychological profiles. There you go. You got the book. Yeah.
This is my
Yeah.
Vanna portion of our podcast today.
Exactly. And I learned about it actually, fun enough, because it's been on Clubhouse for a couple of years, over 2.5 years now. And one of my co-hosts in one of the rooms, that's her speciality. And I thought, I want to find out more about this. So then I got the book and read it myself. I actually listened to an audiobook. And it's quite a big book, but it really distills down to some pretty simple stuff.
Yeah,
And that's why I love to refer to it, because I can refer to it like five love languages
yeah.
as a rather simple but very potent
Mhm.
teaching that can affect everybody's relationships.
And every kind of relationship. I mean, you and I
Yeah.
mostly talk about romantic relationships, and that's what we'll address today. And it'll affect every relationship you're in,
Yeah.
even the person next to you in line at the grocery store, especially if you have different attachment styles. So, the thing that I like to tell people is because mostly what it talks about in the book is how much is created by how you were raised, the attention or not that you got from
Right.
your families. Other things that I've read too, there's a little bit of combination of just who you were born. So it's the whole nature nurture thing. You could have been more of a nice, giving kind of person already, or you could have been somebody who was a little more independent. I mean, there really are personality, like if you look at the Myers-Briggs, a lot of that is really who you are, not
Yeah.
often what you were created to be. So what I've heard is just there can be a little bit of that. So you let your parents off the hook a little because it's not completely all them. And now, as an adult, you get to decide they did the best they could, and now you can do differently and parent yourself differently, right?
Right, but let me take that piece out of context or into its own lane for a second about that parental
Yeah.
thing,
Yes.
because a lot of my work is about really healing that the inner the relationship with the inner child, because
Yes.
it's the childhood memories that get in the way oftentimes of adult relationships,
Yes. I agree
which we
100%.
yeah, which we dip into attachment styles too, because it does come from that place largely as well. The thing is, and I want to say this very clearly, because oftentimes people think when they hear this, like, oh, it's my parents' fault, it's not my fault.
No,
It's like, no, not true. First of all, it's your responsibility because it's your life. But
no. Hmm.
secondly, realize that same as you learn from your parents, they learn from their parents, and they're
Hmm.
very them. So really, what's going on here? It's not necessarily like a lineage, like a hand me down, like a medieval talisman type thing, but it is something whereby the patterns may have started generations ago, and you're just the latest experiencer of those.
The
And
latest
so,
version,
yeah, so
12.0. Yes.
yes. So the thing is, though, and this is one of the things I learned when I was in my master program, we talked about this, is that we can be the person that breaks that cycle because we start to become aware of it, whereas most of our ancestors weren't aware of it and just did it automatically. So when you start looking at patterns and go, damn, I learned from my parents, don't blame them.
Mm-mm.
Thank yourself for catching it so you can change it
Mhm.
forward. So if you take that piece into the rest of your life, it will free you from a lot of those traps of like, well, it's the way I was raised, or that was because
Mm.
of my grandparents, that sort of stuff. Because it's true, and it's your choice to follow that or not, and you can change it. Same as with these attachment styles, you can change that as well.
I agree, and I'm gonna use the word cop-out if you blame it all on your parents and say, "There's nothing I can do about it," because that's a cop-out. You're a
Exactly.
grown-ass adult, you can make choices to now learn something different, act differently, think differently,
Mhm.
behave differently.
Yeah.
There's nothing set in stone. This is not a permanent tattoo.
Right.
So, yes, I didn't mean to imply that at all, so thank you for making that so clear because
Well, no, I want to do it because I've heard it before from other people who've said that to me in passing. I'm like, no, yes, there is the tendency, but
yeah,
it's not a requirement. And
no,
frankly, I love the fact you basically said, let's just get it clear. It's a cop out.
it is. You know me, I'll tell it like it is, just like you do.
Indeed.
So I thought it might be hopeful, helpful, fun to start out with the secure one because I don't know that everybody starts out with that one. Because what I've learned is when I really started learning more about this and really looked at my clients and certainly my personal experience, there were very few people that didn't have some security traits. They
Hmm.
didn't have, they had some. So you're not hopeless, you're not helpless. You've probably got this living inside of you. You don't even realize it because the anxious and avoidance are huge. Secure is kind of like, this is how life's going and it feels okay. And there's not big old
Relax.
upheavals
Yeah.
and big challenges and drama. I mean, that's what anxious avoidance about. So you might not even appreciate how you had some ways to self-soothe. You've had some ways to have your life be smooth. So we can talk about a little bit, I think, so that people go, oh, I'm not hopeless. I'm not unfixable. There
I'd
really
like to
is
think,
some social
yeah,
redeeming parts of me.
I'd like to think we do teach hope.
I think that that really is an underlying theme. And I'm going to say it out loud this time a lot because
Yeah.
I think people can start feeling really broken around this subject. Haven't you
Mhm.
found that when people come with their issues and really get clear, like, oh, is there any hope for me? So, yeah,
Well, yeah, but that's as again, like I said earlier about the parental stuff, and like you were saying, got the cop out. The same thing applies here, meaning that sometimes I've had clients come to me basically who were really feeling like they couldn't fix what was quote wrong with them. And the reality is that these are just behaviors, beliefs they've taken on, and just as easily they can put them off when they figure out what's going on.
yep.
So, absolutely, as you said, yeah, there is hope. There's no requirement to carry this burden of whatever that thing is the rest of your life. No, it's a
It's
choice.
like an old worn out coat.
Yeah,
It's
discard it.
time to take it off. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what I know about the secure part, because it made me think about, all right, when I first started learning about this, my family life,
Hmm.
the piece that so what feeling secure means whoever your caregiver was, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your grandparents, whoever it was, you knew you could count on them when you needed them.
Hmm.
So in my family, there was always food, lots of food. The refrigerator was full, the every night, there was snacks. I mean, there was always food.
Yeah.
And when we came home, generally there was always somebody there. So those wonderful, secure things is part of where I go, oh, well, this is why when I took the test, I scored high on a lot of those really interesting, secure things, even though I know I've had anxious avoidance things in my personality.
Yep.
So if you can look back into your life that you had some ways that you knew you could count on another person, it didn't have to be just you. You didn't have to just count on you throughout your day, throughout your growing up years. Then you probably have some secure tendencies. And we didn't say, but you did mention that there's a quiz. You can take the quiz out of the book, you can take the quiz online. It's really eye opening. It's eye opening.
Well, the thing is, that's because the questions they ask too aren't straightforward questions.
No.
That's why it's such a good test because it doesn't. You're not going to go. Well, I'm going to score this way. It's like no, you answer the questions the way they are, and then you discover at the end the accumulation of those answers, and you discover, oh, that's who I am. Although most people go, oh, I know that's who I am.
So the other piece that I found that wasn't a thing in my life, but it is
Hmm.
important if you've had this in your life to feel secure, that whatever you were feeling, it was okay. If you were mad, it was okay. If you were sad, if you were okay. If you were upset, it was okay. If you've had that in your background, in your family, you will have some secure tendencies too. I mean,
Right.
those are one of the other things that helps make up a secure person.
Right. And if I get because I look back at my own family, same thing. When I got home from school, my mum was always there. My dad was around after work. It's like that was consistent. And I don't have the correlation of data, but I suspect people come from families that didn't have breakups, like divorces, things like that, or death in one of the parents early on, tending to have a more secure foundation. However, for me personally, going through school, I started becoming less and less secure because I didn't have the same stability with friendships, with peers, even with the way the classes ran, because I got moved around in the classes. And so that's eroded in some ways the secure style I grew up with in my family. So that's what I'm saying, is that just because you were raised in a family that was secure or wasn't secure doesn't predict that your life as an adult will be the same as that, because things happen in between.
So I'm going to step back for just a second before we talk about the other styles, because often secure people can really be attracted to anxious or avoidant people, and they want to fix them.
Exactly.
Because look how good my life is. I want your life to be this good too.
Yep. That's
it's one of the catch-22 things about once you get yourself feeling kind of secure, or maybe you were one of the few people that had a really secure upbringing, that you're like, I can just fix the world, especially my romantic relationships. Yeah.
I like the way you say that. It really does put the what's it, it's like the syrup on top of it to show how really you don't want to do that.
So if you really can get yourself to a secure place, one of the cool things is you're going to go, I think that might upset my life to bring that person in when they're having this big anxious or avoidant part of them.
Right.
And so I'm going to hold the space to go, I'm looking forward to you doing something about that. Come back and tell me all about it. That is really good secure, right?
That is really
I
strong.
support you. I care about you. I'm really excited about you. Go for it and tell me all about it, because I can't live with it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in what you're saying, and also in the way to put the other way around, is from a secure person generally has healthier boundaries than the other two types, which has been a large part of this. And one thing I want to throw in there too, and again, we will talk the other two types, just to give people a sense of the range. Roughly, there's a bit more than that now, but roughly half the population is a secure attachment style. So it's not like you're one of the minority if you're secure. It's actually half the population. So if you're one of the other types, you're actually in the minority. So the good news is, if you're thinking, which one am I, you might be surprised to discover you're actually more secure than you thought you were, because a lot of the population is.
Yeah.
So just to let you breathe more easily as we go further into this conversation.
I'm so glad you said that, because this is, we really do try to give people some hope. And boy, this is a subject where I can sort of feel a little teetery. So when we talk about the other styles, which we're now going to do, if you go, oh, I do recognize those kinds of things happened to me as a kid. Oh, I feel like that in relationships. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to get some tools how to move myself even farther over on the scale of feeling secure. Because you already have a basis there of some real secure attached feelings that you've hopefully got some from your family, and that you've done things in your life that have helped you blossom them and grow them and make them an integral part of you, so that you're feeling even more capable of dealing with these things that we're now going to point out that you're going to go, oh crap, yeah, I do that too. Because that's the feeling I've had when I figured it out. Oh yeah, I do that. Oh my.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, and as we move, as we talk about the other two parts which I want to talk about, I want to put in this framework. It seems like in a lot of ways what it feels like, the way I'm just thinking about it, is that when you're a secure person, when you have a secure attachment style, there's nothing to prove.
No.
Whereas if you're one of the other two types, which we'll talk about in a second, so stay with us.
Yeah.
There tends to be a level of proof needed, or actually proof to demonstrate you're actually one of the other two types. And it's interesting how we use that as our validation system, which is so I want to say miss a line, but it's just something we sometimes do. Is we, when you're secure, you just like, I'm secure. It's like, don't
Mhm.
have to prove anything, don't have to demonstrate anything. I just know I am, because you're done. That's who you are.
Yes.
But if you are, and I'm going to put the two names on the table, it's an avoidant style or an anxious style. There's a part of you that's seeking proof, or I should say, it's so you can demonstrate that you're justified in being one of those.
Yes.
And that proof is interesting because, for example, just really quick illustrations, if you're an avoidant attachment style, which we'll go into detail on, you'll find reasons to justify and to prove that you made the right choice to be avoidant, because otherwise, look at the hell you'd be involved in. And if you're an anxious attachment style, the same thing's true on the other side.
Yes.
So we have this proof thing for me is a thread that goes through both sides of the secure and the other two, because I'm putting the other two in the same bucket, so to speak, for this.
Yeah.
That really is an interesting way to look at life, because when we recognize, again, when you are secure, you don't need any proof. If we could live life in that state, period, it'll make life so much easier, because we won't be looking for evidence to prove our position that we think is right, but it's actually not right. So
Good point, Barry. Such a good point. Yeah, we want to be validated for feeling awful.
right.
Yeah. And we need so much validation from the other person, and we need validation who they are. They need to keep validating who they are. It's such an empty bucket.
Yeah.
It's an empty bucket on both sides. And so let's start with the anxious, because those are the people with the really empty bucket. That doesn't matter. I call those the people with the hole in the bucket, because no matter how much you ask for, which is constant reassurance, and no matter, let's say you're with a secure person, no matter how much they give you, truly honest, love you madly, not going to leave you, it's flowing out the bottom of the bucket. It'll never be full. It's impossible. No matter how wonderful the other person is, no matter how much you need it every minute, every day, you'll never feel full up when you're an anxious person. And often what's happened was your parents were very sporadic. They were there and then they weren't. And then they were back and then they weren't. And often it's pretty intense in the there and the not. And so when they're there, you're like, oh my God, I have to cling on to them, because when they leave, they might never, ever, ever come back, which is fascinating, because there are some that don't, but most of the time they do. But it's when you're in a relationship, they didn't text me all day. I'm sure we're done.
Yeah.
We're done. They've left me. What did I do? I mean, I've lived this, so I can say the words out loud. What did I do to make them leave? What did I do to deserve them to leave? Now, there's no evidence that they're leaving, but we could pass a lie detector test about they're leaving, because I haven't had a text all day.
And the thing that, just to illustrate that point, we don't even consider the fact that maybe they left their phone in the car, or the phone ran out of power, or they were in a meeting and couldn't get out. We don't think any of that reason. It's like, no, it's directly because they don't like us. We take it so, it's like the thing about the anxious attachment style. It's a very self-abusive, like self-flagellation, like beating ourselves up because we did something wrong that we drove them away, or we did something. We're going to keep verifying. We didn't make up the mistakes we made. We did something wrong. We got to fix it. That sort of thing that runs through our minds a lot too when you're an anxious attachment style. And the part of it is, like you said, it's beautifully framed about putting the hole in the bucket type idea. It is that sense that you can't get close enough to them to feel loved.
No.
Doesn't matter how close you get, you never get close enough.
No.
And it's that constant, almost addiction, really.
It is.
It comes from that place. And I'll talk later about a solution to that, one of the ways it works. But that piece, though, is such a needy place, hence anxious. I mean, if you listen to our broadcast or watching it, just for a moment, feeling what it feels like to be anxious, because the person who you count on is erratic in terms of they're not there when you want them there, or they come back when they don't come back, all those different things that you were saying, Christine. How would that make you feel? I mean, you'd feel pretty anxious yourself. So recognize
that. Especially when you're a little kid. This is happening to you when you're a little kid.
from your parents or from one
Yes.
of your siblings or something else, somebody else close to you. The unreliability that you experience. Now, key thing, the unreliability that you experience, not the unreliability they gave you, because it could be different, just to be clear.
Yeah.
The unreliability you experience,
Yeah.
it's such a simple shift, but it's so important to get that, is the spark or the fuel that keeps you believing that's the way it is. And so you keep seeing reminders along through your life, even if there's only a few of them, that's enough for you to go, see, I knew I was right to be avoidant. I mean, to be anxious rather, to be desperate, to check in all the time. So yeah, it's such a key point of this teaching to get the value of understanding why it happens. And again, we'll show you some ways of getting out of it shortly as well.
Yeah. But if you've ever irrationally, you learn later there was no basis in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Think, maybe I have some anxious attachment in the blend of my secureness, because that is the telltale thing. It is 100% irrational. Now, if people have left you before, if you have somebody ghosted you, it's supposed to be more like this.
Yeah.
But the immediate reaction of, it's the end of the world, it's never going to be okay, is the clue of, oh, I think this is part of my personality that's not going to help me have a healthy, happy relationship. Reacting extremely with no evidence. You could wait. Could be it's going to end. Could be they're having an affair. Could be. But going to on a scale of 1 to 10 to 312 with no evidence shows you have no regulating. There's no adult in the room. And this is not critical at all. This is just like, oh, wow, I do that. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. And wow, it's really hard on my partner when they come back and I'm like, where were you? Oh my God, you didn't text me all. That's hard on anybody with no, gosh, did we talk about maybe you'd be texting me during the day? I was a little concerned. But you see how you can modulate, how you can have it not be so extreme. So when it goes to extreme, which anxious people do, you go, oh, that's me. That's what I'm doing. Is that really working for me? Is that working for my relationships? Maybe I need to listen to Christine and Barry about what to do about that.
Well, the thing is, the anxious attachment style, when they do get that clingy and needy and desperate and upset and wounded and all the other stuff, again, the proof. Because what happens is, if you do that to a partner, doesn't matter how secure the other partner is, they may end up saying, you know what, I've had enough, I'm out of here, and they leave. And then you've got proof again that they leave you. So
put one more on the chalkboard. Yeah.
Exactly. So this paradigm of how we have, I won't say self-fulfilling prophecies, but how we do create these realities because we keep holding for them.
Yes.
It's equally as powerful when you go negative or positive. So we'll do positive in a minute. But I want to give a couple of tips, because one of the things that I'm aware of and learned many, many years ago is that we are, I want to say we're approval machines, but we're approval seeking people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, because what triggered us, we said about the having the hole in the bottom of the bucket, is that we oftentimes have gotten into patterns and habits, especially when an anxious attachment style, to need the approval from other people. Mm-hmm. And so the illustration I use, and this is the model from a training seminar many, many years ago, is imagine you hold a cup that basically is where you hold your approval. And that approval gets poured in by other people when you do nice things for them, sort of thing. And if you're an anxious attachment style, you keep looking out there for somebody to fill up your cup for you. And as illustrated, same as what you were saying, Christine, there's a hole in the bottom of the cup. So no matter how much they pour in, it slowly disappears. You got to keep getting more and more and more. So you go seeking approval, getting nice things, having nice words said to you from all different people, including your partner, maybe your parents, maybe co-workers, because it does work outside relationships too. Maybe from people you know in your social circle. The thing is that approval you get from other people is very thin, like very low grade oil. So it doesn't hold together, it just pours through. The key for an anxious person attachment style, true for everybody too, but especially for anxious attachment styles, is most of those people don't have much self-approval. They're always externally referenced. But when you start learning how to approve of yourself by doing things that nurture yourself and do self-supportive practices, meditation, exercise, things that you really start feeling, feeling proud of yourself for doing,
Yes.
that's like self-approval. Self-approval is very thick. So when you pour that into your cup, it fills the cup up and it stays there, but it doesn't leak out. And then if you get approval from other people, that goes on top of it, and then it just sits there, which is great. So you have more and more approval that doesn't disappear on you. But the need for it dissipates. The reliance on yourself increases. And so the temptation to be needy dissipates as well. So that simple exercise about watching where your approval comes from inside or from out, can be a shifting or a transformational moment. We shift out of anxious into secure. So that's one of the things I teach with my clients, how to change that paradigm so you don't live in that anxious attachment style anymore.
Yeah, I've talked about the higher quality of your own feeling self-worth and approval.
Oh, yeah.
I like the oil weight. I am going to use that because it's
well,
such
again, it wasn't. I didn't create it. It came from a seminar I took many, many years ago. So just to know, I borrowed it.
Well, we're gonna you and I are both going to keep sharing it because I love the visual of it.
Yeah.
Because the more you now, the avoidant is a whole other person that they think they can
Yes.
only trust themselves. But we're going to stay with the anxious for the moment. That when you learn you can trust yourself to know that you're a good person and have validation with doing good things for yourself, doing things for other people, and feeling good about doing it. Yes, it's really nice to get back.
You're not
But
doing
you're
it for that
doing it
reason,
because it makes you feel
right?
good.
Yes.
It keeps putting the higher weight oil in your cup. That you listen to your body going, I think I need a nap. Well, I've been saying I want to do these other things to these people because I know it would make them like me, but I really need a nap. So I'm going to say I need a nap and I'll come do that tomorrow. What I learned personally when I first started doing this, especially in my late 30s after I got divorced, and with my clients is you don't even realize the effect is you just start feeling better. You start feeling better as a person. You start feeling more self-confident. The better care you take of yourself, the more kind things you do, the more nice things you say to yourself, the more you go, I'd really like a piece of chocolate today. I'm going to have a piece of chocolate today just because it seems like a fun thing to do. Okay. And not being disapproving and denying and this is the other clue. What will other people think if I do this? If I tell them I do this? To not care to the end of the earth about what other people think. I mean, there's the fine line of not caring at all and being rude. But most people, that's just not in their personality. I thought if I started speaking up that I'd turn into the bitch of the people that I knew that I thought spoke up for themselves, but they never spoke up for themselves this way. And when I started learning to do this, I was still a damn nice person and I was in a much better mood. So I assure people you can make this shift and still feel like the nice, because it's really important to me to be nice, but I'm not going to be nice anymore at my expense, because that's what it was. It cost me too much to not do what I needed to do because I wanted other people. I mean, I've said it out loud that I wanted people I didn't even like to like me. It was so draining. So my anxious side of me drove me to sacrifice myself and still not get back what I was trying to get back. So when you start giving more to yourself, speaking your truth, telling other people what you really need and want, and then going, let's see what they do. It will not devastate me if they can't do this. Maybe we can negotiate and come somewhere in the middle, or maybe we just can't be together anymore. But it's when we're like, if they don't stay, I will die.
Right.
That's the anxious to the extreme. But when our 12-year-old shows up, we all feel like that.
Right. It's really in some ways one of the most, I won't say purest, but one of the more extreme forms of codependency, basically. We talk about codependency many times on the show, so people will know we talk about this. But the anxious attachment style is really the turning up the knob a bit more to show just how needy we can get, because that's what it is. Anxious is needy. And it's also seeking opportunities to prove that it was right to be needy.
Oh, yeah.
Really, the whole problem is this whole like circles caught in a loop, because we don't get satisfied when we get what we want.
No.
We actually get satisfied when we don't get what we want, so we can prove that we were actually right to be needy in the first place. It's so bizarre, but we do that.
And it's very human.
Yeah.
It's a very human thing to do. It's a very humanity way to act and behave. And you see it played out on really big scales. That when you become aware of it, it's not to give yourself a hard time. It's to go, oh, I've been doing this and it really hasn't been working. What could I do differently?
Right.
So part of doing differently is going, wow, I recognize I'm doing this. Wow, it's not working. I'm feeling needy all the time. I'm feeling less valued all the time. I'm not feeling worthy all the time. And it's not all the other people's fault. And it's not even your fault. It's just your responsibility to decide, I'd like to think differently. I'd like to behave differently. I want to have different relationship with myself. And then I can have a different relationship with other people, instead of expecting other people for the anxious person to fill them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing is really, we talked this again many times before, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Notice what we do, notice what we don't do, notice how it makes us feel. You know, we're at that when we're pining at the window for our partners to come home. It may sound romantic, but it's not healthy. It's like, you know, that energy, it can feel for some, and this is the thing, for some people, they're so practiced in that energy, they feel like it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. It feels
And
really normal. It feels
it
very
does,
normal. Mm-hmm.
but it's also, it's normal in the framework of what we did before it didn't work. What this perspective is about is shifting you out of that normality into freedom and having what you really want, which is to ideally be secure and have a secure partnership too. So yeah, this is the
So
shift.
let's talk about avoidance, because
Oh yes.
typically what happens is the anxious person gets with the avoidant person, and it's just havoc. It's havoc on both people. So the avoidant person really knew they couldn't count on anybody when they were growing up. You know, their parent was addicted or really ill in the hospital a lot, and they had to rely on themselves all the time. Nobody else but them was trustworthy. Nobody else could do it as good as them. It was them against the world, which is a
That's
really hard thing to feel like as a little kid.
mm-hmm. And it's
Oh,
true, that is the underlying theme or the message or the motto of the person who's avoidant is me against the world.
me,
Yeah.
and nobody will ever be there to help me, ever.
No.
And I can't count on anybody. And I'm going to leave them before they can leave me. And yeah, I can be there for a little bit, but boy, if they start getting clingy, which is what happens.
Yep.
So I use an analogy that if you're both have a lot of secure attachment in you, you're going to be the kind of magnets that do this. When you're the anxious avoidance, you got the turn the magnet around and it's like, I need you. I'm going to back up. You back up. Maybe I'll come forward a little, but then as soon as you get clingy again, I'm going to back up. And it's just crazy. And I've talked to so many couples that when we get to this point in the conversation of, have you considered, you know, let's look at this in your background. And they're like, but it just felt, isn't that the way the world is? Because it is that way a lot in the world, where there's the whole push-pull thing. And this is one of the biggest reasons, because anxious and avoidant keep trying to get together.
The funny thing is,
because that too.
Yeah, because the thing is, anxious and avoidant don't tend to look for secure people.
No.
So they look for somebody else who's also weird. And avoidant will come together because they're too far apart. Anxious and anxious won't help each other because they're both too needy. They're like, you're too needy, I'll go somewhere else. It's almost like they can see too much of themselves in the mirror, so they go somewhere else. But that mirror analogy, the magnet analogy you use, which I love, is I think the same thing, is that when you put two magnets together that attract, it's great. But when they're opposed to each other, one's reversed, so they're actually the same pole pointing at each other. Doesn't matter how much you push them together, they will not come together. So they'll keep like going around each other. They'll keep like missing each other. And that really is about how attached, how avoidant and anxious attachment styles dance together. Because it is a dance, not logical, not intentional, but it is one of these things where it's like push me, pull you. It's like get closer, get further, get closer, get further. It's it's sad to watch, but then people seem to think it's normal again because that's what they were raised with. And so
Yes.
we oftentimes, as I said, do inherit patterns when we're younger, sometimes not, but we get those patterns imprinted on us because of situations that tend to recycle through us.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So when you're with someone who tends to give you these really big reactions, you go, what about me? Not them. What about me is reacting? What about me is causing this reaction? Why am I so upset about the lack of attention? Why am I so upset about how much they need my attention? To go, oh, I think I now have learned I am an anxious or an avoidance attachment style. And yeah, with some digging, you and I can help people go, this is why. I mean, there's a blueprint that was created that you can now change, but you go, oh, I got a legacy. I was handed this, like the family china. And you can say, I want to send it off to the Goodwill because I don't like that pattern. It doesn't work in my life. So, what do you do to start healing some of that when you go, oh, I now see I have this tendency and it's really causing problems in my relationship, my lack of relationships, because that's what happens is you keep leaving each other. One leaves the other. Somebody leaves and they're so unhappy. And the thing is, it is repairable. You can change this legacy 100%. And it's not that it disappears. That's the thing I'm going to say, because it still raises its little head in me, and I have to have conversations with myself. It's like anything, a recovered alcoholic still goes to meetings because even though they're not drinking, that whatever it was is still living in their body. So what I've learned is, oh, there's that anxious thing coming up again, because I don't tend to have too much avoidance, but I've certainly had anxious. I recognize the feeling earlier. I see what's happening and I go, what tools do I have? Well, I think I haven't been given to myself lately. I think I got a little too dependent on the other person. I was being kind of hard on myself lately. Or I know you know the acronym of HALT. So one of the things I love telling people is to use HALT because it could be this tiny little toddler fix. Or it could be a big thing that you and I need to help them with. So HALT is hungry, angry, tired, lonely. We are beyond hope. I mean, have you ever had a preteen in your life who has had a meltdown? The world is horrible and there's nothing. I go to see my niece in Virginia and she's got kids. And they were just the two of them having a complete meltdown, putting toys away one day. And she came out and she's like, yeah, it sucks. And boy, yeah, that's really, and she's moving them really slowly into the kitchen. Yep, I get it. They were mean and it was horrible and awful. And she put snacks in, and they're still complaining and crying and carrying on. And by the time they're like 5 minutes into the snacks, they're like, oh, I'm happy now. So your basic instincts of being hungry, or angry, hangry too. That's the other thing.
Right. Yeah.
Or feeling really lonely or super overtired. There's often a really fast fix. So even though I've done all my work and I know stuff, when it comes up, I sometimes go, I didn't get enough sleep last night and I think I need to go eat lunch. So it's not this irreparable huge thing all the time. Sometimes just check in, just use that acronym.
Yeah.
Have you found that too?
I love that because it is a reminder, because oftentimes these, as you said, and I'll repeat this so people in the audience can get it for the people in the back, is that so oftentimes the fix is so simple. But the biggest thing, and I've talked to many times before about being self-aware, is when you become aware of it, it's like, oh, hang on a second, I feel like I've really been too close to this person, or I've been too far away from this person, both sides of the spectrum. When we start to notice our what's I'm looking for? Our sense of space has become too big or too small. We need to do something to fix it. So that idea about doing simple fixes, and yes, it is about tuning into your body, into your feelings, into how you're going, because that is your best barometer, basically, to know where you are. And yes, I'll also underscore the reminder that even though we both done our work and I've done my own work as well, I still notice for me, it's more, I think more avoidance shows up more often than not. This is the extra one, because I like my alone time.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes I'll even feel that. And then I go say, okay, is that really avoidant, or I just am choosing to be alone? Because I have to know, because it can feel the same or be perceived the same. But to know if I'm doing it simply because I don't want to be with this person, that's different.
Yeah.
If I want to do it, just want to have some space to reconstitute, reconnect, do something for myself, that's healthy.
Yeah.
But the shift into the avoidance attachment, whereas I'm just saying that I can't be around them. Why not?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And so self-inquiry is another part of the process of really like, what is this driving me to be away from this person? What's driving me to be spend less time with them?
Mm-hmm.
Do I not want to be with them? Because
Mm-hmm.
usually the answer is no, I want to be with them. Then why am I avoiding them?
Mm-hmm.
What's in the way? So it's good to ask questions that really can provide good answers to know how to navigate where you are and know what you're doing, so you can choose something different.
Great tip. And one of the tips I do too is we come up with realistic expectations for yourself and for them. So here's another self-awareness thing. I've talked about how much time I like, how much attention I like. If I'm starting to get involved with someone, I've learned
3 texts.
I like 3 texts a day. Gary's been listening. I need 3 texts a day. If you set an alarm, I'm fine with that. Just work out sending me 3 texts a day, because it makes me, it's the perfect amount for me. I'm taking good care of myself. I've got lots of security. I don't have a hole in my bucket. And who I am as a person, because I'm a words of appreciation person, and I honor that. And I will tell you out loud 3 texts a day, and I'll be happy.
Yep.
So when I tell them that, and I've mentioned that there was one guy that I dated for a while who said, not sure I can do the middle of the day thing. I'm going to do my best, but I can't always. But he told me ahead of time. And what it turned out that the times that he didn't, which was very seldom, because I didn't give him a hard time, because I knew that I would get much more in the evening to make up for it, which was lovely. But if I hadn't done my work, I'd be like, I don't care that you're sending me a text in the evening, sending me a text, which is what I had done earlier in my life. And it was horrible for both people. I mean, I said I should go back and apologize to the men before I knew all this, because I was not very nice to them. I was really not. And so learning to be realistic. How much do you need? Now, if you're an anxious person, you're going to need way more than anybody could ever give you. We've talked about how you have to give to yourself. Once you've done the work, hopefully with one of us, you will get to where you're at a realistic expectation. And not everybody can do it. So they're not your people to be closer in. They can be more acquaintance people, but not an intimate person that you're building a relationship with. So realistic expectations, along with assuring yourself along the way and staying aware of, why did I get that mood? Why did that mood come up? What in the heck was happening with me? Because shit happens during the day. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Somebody walks in front of you at the store. You get a flat. I've had a printer problem for 5 days. It's been such a drag. And I keep going, I am on edge about this. I'm sorry. I am not at my best person, because there's been too many things in a row, and a couple of things that affected me big in a row. I'm admitting it. I'm using all the tools I got, and I'm just telling you, what helps me is I need to narrate the process. I have to tell you my story. I need to sit here and complain for 20 minutes about this crappy week I've had. You don't even need to, I'll ask you if I need a fix, but mostly I just need to tell you. So I have 3 friends, so I don't wear one of them out, that I call and say, I need to do my 911. I just need you to listen to my story. And because of who I am, and I accept that, and it isn't accepted by everybody in the whole world that I am like this, so I just pick the people. But when you get where you go, oh, this is what will help me get more upright because I can't always fix it myself. I can't. I admit that, and I have tons of tools. I have a Home Depot full of tools. So I think that that's partly taking care of yourself, partly giving yourself grace. And when the more grace you give yourself, I think the more grace you're going to give the other person.
Absolutely. That is that is on point. And that again comes back to the point is that you need to really look in the mirror, so to speak. You know, I said it before, you said it before, we said it many times in our show, that the work in the mirror, the focus in the mirror is where the real work is. And our relationships outside drastically improve when we start to improve the one in the mirror first. And so this piece we're talking about here with attachment styles, same as with the love languages, same as all the things we talked about, are clues that show us when we're messing up and missing out in relationship. And so this teaching about attachment styles, which again, you get the book, do the quiz online, read all about it. Hopefully what we've shared in this show has been extremely helpful, hopefully, because we break it down quite effectively, is the recognition that we have things that happen to us or things that we learn as we grow up that give us particular styles of approaching relationships. And one of the amazing things is that people don't have a clue when they get into a relationship with somebody else what the things are they need to work on.
No.
So hopefully when you're watching us and you're single, you've got some clues to do some homework before you get in a relationship. And if you are in one, do the homework now so you can fix it going forward. Because it's vital stuff, you know.
I will say out loud, since you and I've done the work, we will say, learning about and talking about your attachment style, it's got challenges. It just does.
Yeah.
And it's so worth it. There are way more benefits. This is how long it takes to get through it. This is how many benefits you're going to get from it. In the way you feel personally and the way you relate in all your relationships, but especially because we talk about it here, your romantic relationship. Yeah. You will have such a better time being with another person romantically if you work on the challenges that you're having with your personal attachment style. I can't say that enough, right?
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we are big believers in doing this work, huh?
Absolutely. Do the work. Do the work.
Do the work. And we're happy to do it with you. And the way that you do that is...
Segue.
I love how we do that. So you can reach me through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can also click on what's holding you back from love and have a complimentary conversation with me. Let's figure out what your attachment style is and how to make it more smooth in your life. You can also send me a personal email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can see me on all my social media on Facebook and Pinterest and LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram are at Coach Christine Baumgartner.
And Twitter?
And Twitter is regular The Perfect Catch.
Okay, just checking. Make sure you're all
Thank
6.
you.
You're welcome.
You always got my back, Barry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for me, the same thing applies. I have a website and I have social media. So if you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website, which is in the process of being redesigned. Finally, I've got somebody working on my site, which has been way past due. So it's going to look really good in a few weeks. So you can go visit now, but no, it's under construction. But on the homepage of my website, which you can still get to, there's a place you can sign up for a paid mini session with me to really start navigating where you are and where you want to go. And yes, we will cover attachment styles if you want. That's one of the deep stuff we can do. At the bottom of that homepage, you can just join my email list if you want to get subscribed to my emails and also get these shows in replay every week. That's one thing I love sending my audience so they can see these shows. You can also, on my site, you probably still can find my book is on my site, my online course. In fact, my second program is coming out, which is a wait list, a bunch of other things. So my site's got lots of stuff. If you want to find out more about that, just reach out to me either through my site or email me at barry@barryselby.com or on all the social media platforms. I'm Barry Selby, except for Instagram. Instagram is the real Barry Selby, but every other platform, so YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and Clubhouse are all Barry Selby. So you just find me over there and you can check out my stuff I do online as well.
And you continue to find us here every week on Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. Indeed. We love comments and questions. Please send them to us. And if you know anybody else that might be having some, what you now could call attachment style challenges in their relationships, please forward this on to them so that they can subscribe to our channels because, oh my gosh, this is going to just make So I can't tell you what a difference it'll make in your life, because it certainly did in mine. And Barry's
Yeah.
talked about it multiple times as well, the difference it made in his. It's a huge shift. It'll just make you feel better. It just will. It's amazing.
It's neat. Basically, just to be really simple, is that if you watch our videos, your relationship will improve.
With yourself and other people, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a guarantee. Well,
If you do the
thank you
work,
so much for watching. And say again,
and say if you do the work.
if you have to do the work.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
we go along with you. You don't have to see. That's the thing. You don't ever have to do it all by yourself anymore.
Exactly. Right.
So bye for now. We'll see you again next week with another scintillating subject.